In this video, I'm going to review the HQ Issue Tactical Mid-Ride Waterproof Hiking Boot. So that's a mouthful, and I'm not really sure what the correct way is, because on the correct way to say it, because on the tag it says one thing, on the site it says another, but this is known as a Canyon tactical hiking boot, and it's a 6-inch model, meaning that it goes up to the ankle. You can get an 8-inch version, which is obviously 8 inches tall, gives you good ankle support and such, so good roll protection. But this boot is basically a Sportsman's Guide's version of a budget-friendly boot that gives good quality for a lower price than some of the premium models, but you're supposed to be getting qualities that you'll find in premium models, up to a certain point, of course. But HQ Issue is a subsidiary of Sportsman's Guide. It is one of their companies that they're launching, budget-friendly stuff. So I wanted to go ahead and give a review. I've had these for 5 months. Now, keep in mind, this is a sample of one, and I have been pretty rough. The Alaskan winters are pretty tough, so you're going to see temperature variances of, inside buildings you're looking at about 70 degrees, and then outside you're looking at negative 30, maybe negative 40. And spending a lot of time outside, basically just wearing this and wool socks, it can actually be very harsh on boots. And so my gauge is that in my past experience. So first off, let's talk about the materials used. As you can see, we have leather here, and a substantial amount of leather. Now, this material right here, this is their guide dry material. Now, if you go on their site, I'll link it below for these boots, but it goes into more detail on guide dry. Basically, to keep it short, guide dry is supposed to be a waterproof material. It's advertised as being a waterproof material that also breathes. So the concept is basically it keeps water out in combination with the leather, so it insulates. Leather is a good insulator for temperatures and water, as long as it's continually treated for the most part. However, it's supposed to keep it waterproof and insulated, but it also allows breathing. So the way they explain it is vapor molecules are smaller than water molecules, so it prevents water molecules getting in, but it allows the pressure in the air and the humidity that your feet build up over time and usage. It allows that to escape, so you won't really get rotten feet. So I do recommend a couple of things. Number one, I do recommend that you get your own insoles, and I'll just take this one out because it does come with a flat insole. And I do recommend that you're wearing wool socks with pretty much any boot. So overall, I do really like this this material and the leather. I do think that's good quality materials, and it does actually insulate. So also, you got the outsole and the midsole here. Pretty good quality, very strong, and you can see the tread pattern here. It is very aggressive, and that's the idea. Is it's a tactical boot and it's a hiking boot, so you need to be able to get good aggressive purchase and slip resistance. So also the point is you need to support the feet, and these little squares and circles actually are placed in areas where mainly we're going to pronate and rotate our ankles and stuff like that into these areas, and we're going to need the most support in them. So at the toe area, you can see that it's a little bit bigger in certain areas than others. In the balls of the feet, you can see it gets a little bit smaller. That helps distribute the load a little bit and kind of acts like a cushion, because it will collapse a little bit. It'll kind of smush down and expand out, so that does act like a support, and you can really feel that on the heel. You want that to be very solid, and once you start rotating on, these little circular areas also act as a cushion as well. So it does a terrific job of supporting the foot and getting good traction. The one thing is, when you first get them, it is going to hold on to things like mud and dirt. However, a quick wash in your bathtub or something like that, or in the sink, does get stuff off very easily. And also over time, all you're going to have to do is stomp your foot a little bit down like that, and you'll be able to get material off. Now, my technique is slamming my heel down, so basically this kind of motion right here. So I skid my heel along, and that is enough to kick out a lot of material from these patterns. So that's just a note right there. So as we're talking about the outsole and the pattern, you can see right here that I did have to glue the outsole to the midsole, and that is Gorilla Glue. So what happened is about a month or two after getting them, after the extreme cold really came in and there was a lot of temperature changes, I started having a delamination along here. And the Gorilla Glue has gone from yellow to kind of dirty color, so right here to right here, this was actually coming off. And so I had to glue it back on. Well, the problem is that, you know, that can happen with pretty much any boot. That is a very common thing. So you just need to keep an eye on that. However, I have not had to do any more gluing in the extreme temperatures that it's been exposed to since then, and it's been more aggressive than what it was dealing with. So it's basically an early on defect, but it's easily taken care of with a little Gorilla Glue. It seals it up very well, and it is very rigid, and it's not going to give. So it does a pretty good job. That's a good shoe repair method. So you'll see also, if I can find it, it does have some extra glue here, and you do see that the midsole does sort of separate a little bit in some areas. It is attempted to be glued, but the leather is sewn into the inner sole here, which is basically a white strip. And let me go ahead and get the shoelaces out of the way. But you can basically see that it's sewn into a white strip here, and the stitching is very good. Even on the leather here, it is very good. It's basically glued onto the midsole, and you can see how the inside is right here. I would actually prefer that this material, this nice insulating material, actually be all the way through, but you can't really help that all the time. But big piece of advice from me is to actually get your own insoles that actually support your arches, because that can make a huge difference. These come with flat insole inserts. So with that said, the shoelaces, very good quality. They do hold knots very well. I haven't had any aggressive wear. Surprisingly, it does have quick tie clips here, or loops, and that's something that I do like, but I also don't like. I think that it would only be really good at the very top for securing it, but having two on, they can kind of slip off, and then you lose most of your tension in your shoelaces. But overall, these shoelaces are very good quality, and I haven't had to replace them with 550 cord, so thumbs up from me. So, with that said, I did encounter a problem where the front area was leaking water when I did my immersion test. When I first submerged these shoes underwater while I was wearing them, actually in a river and in a bathtub, it was keeping out water. It was doing a very good job of it. However, a limited exposure after not treating the leather and everything else, the toe area actually was allowing water to get through on both of these boots. And so I think that's actually kind of a symptom that the leather here actually needs to be treated, because it is somewhat fraying more at the front here than at the back. The back is still in pretty good condition for the most part, but this is the area that's been exposed to most moisture and the most cold, and it has been moved around, stretched and stuff like that, and that can affect leather over time, but you can treat it, and it's a very simple process. So that's something that I'm going to try in the future, and I'll give feedback on my social media. But you know, with all that said, there are some other points of wear here, like on the tongues on both of these. You do have a split right here, but I don't think it's actually hurt the integrity of the guide dry material, so that's just a little bit of a note, but not really a big deal at all. But one thing I do like is the actual stitching of the leather onto this material. So you can see the shoelaces are held in by that sort of thin webbing material. That was actually a point of concern when I was doing research on boots, and I found these a very good price, looking at about $60 for these boots. But you know, you can see that there's no real aggressive stretching or any threat of compromise to the laces here. And also the laces do have a little bit of flexibility, which I think has helped expand the service life of these boots, and I do expect that these boots are going to have a much longer service life, and they will still serve me for a good time. Overall, that is really my review of these boots. They have served me well, and I'm sure they will continue to serve me well. I just need to do a couple of treatments on the leather to try to get it to be waterproof again before the summer hits, because I am going to be hiking and using these boots, so I use them pretty much exclusively. So that's pretty much it for my review of the HQ Issue Canyon Tactical Hiking Boot 6-inch mid-ride boot. So yeah, that's a mouthful. But that's my review. I hope it was helpful. But go ahead and check them out in the description below. I have a link on this and learn more about them, but they are a very good option, and they actually have lived up to getting a good amount of quality for the money. At about $60, you can't really go wrong, and you do have options, your 6-inch mid-ride or your 8-inch. But with all that said, I think I found one of my favorite boots for the price. I don't want to have to spend $200. I'm sure you don't either. But if you have any comments, go ahead and leave them below. Thanks a lot for watching, and you guys have a good one.